something happened. What happened? There it goes. Thank goodness, Lynn. Okay, so we're going to do some work through where's the core between, if we go between the pubic bones and then you go straight back to the sacrum, the midpoint between pubic bone and sacrum. We're referring to that as the pelvic core. Okay. This is not a place where there's a muscle. I mean, you have lots of other abdominal organs in there, but that doesn't mean you can't place your felt sense in that area and reach into it. And then where are we reaching to and from? Sometimes we're reaching toward the core of the pelvis, and sometimes we're reaching from the core toward a quadrant in the pelvic floor, which we're referring to as the root, because floor and core sound so much alike that it's often confusing. And the root is anyway, root, we could coincide it with the root chakra, really, that area. But anyway, so if we talk about the pelvic floor, let's remember it's going from pubic bone, the bony borders, pubic bone, inner sit bone, tailbone. Pubic bone, inner sit bone, tailbone are the bony landmarks of the pelvic floor, both sides, right? And in that floor, we're going to divide it into quadrants. We've been dividing it into quadrants. So we said one quadrant goes from inner pubic bone to your inner sit bone and back to the perineum. So the perineum, pubic bone, inner sit bone, perineum. That's one quadrant. Or we could call it the front root. And then we could go from the inner sit bone, tailbone to the perineum. And that would be the back root. So you have like a front right root and a front and a back right root. I mean, this is where people get all like boggled in their minds. But the things to remember is that the pelvic floor is not flat, it's angled, right? We went over that the pelvic floor comes, up in the back and up in the front in your body. And if as we're practicing and I say something, because oftentimes we work a lot with the back leg, and I might bring up things going on with the front leg for those of you that have been working with me for a while, okay? So you might be going from the back root, let's say the left back root. So that means you're putting your felt sense into, the left inner tailbone, the left inner sit bone, perineum. You find that space and you reach from it up to that pelvic core. Okay, so that's traveling through that space. And I mean, I've been doing this for a while, right? In my own body, I've been working on this area at times over, I don't know, it's been well over a year. And what I realized is that and for some of you, you've been working with this for a while. One of the things I realized is that I was actually connecting only to part of that, say that back root. I'd really find like a border, and then I'd reach from that border to the core. And now what I find is like, oh, this is shape, that whole shape. So how do I reach from that whole space up? And then it's a diagonal. The core of the pelvis is in the center of the pelvis. The pelvic floor we're reaching from is not coming from center. So there's diagonal. And you might get this from some of that pranayama we were doing, because you could feel more of that diagonal. All right. So if this ends up just kind of going in your head and you're just already feeling completely overwhelmed, don't sweat it. Don't bother. Don't let it overwhelm you. It's completely fine. Even if you don't even get it, you're going to have a fruitful practice. Okay. So that's just kind of some of the territory that we're going to work with. And and I think we feel, if we're, here in North America, we feel the fall. We really feel like we're really in it right now. And if we were in the Rockies, we'd be like, what happened to fall? The leaves are all on the trees, but we're having so much snow. But we're in this period right now where it's cold, dry, and windy. So these are, that is Vata. Cold, dry, windy. So sometimes the things you might notice would be dry skin. Itchy skin can often happen in the winter Vata season. Irritability, like a branch that's dry, that breaks, that sort of, this is why those of you who have been doing a cleanse right now maybe don't feel that. Like, one of the beautiful things I feel as I enter week 3 of this cleanse, I don't feel that irritability. I actually finally feel a quiet that's come in. So getting up in the morning is really, it's so important to rise, like all of you have already this morning. And maybe you got up when it was still dark. And I want you to feel that as the days get shorter, because now we are past, now we're having maybe sunrise for us is, our days are a lot shorter. We're at maybe 11 hours or something like that. But one of the things you might feel in the morning is the quiet, the deep quiet that's present, the deep quiet of darkness before the light. And this is why I really encourage you not to immediately turn on, your lights or your radio or things, to nurture more the quiet that nature has already set up for us. It's there. We see it. It's happening. And we don't want to resist that quiet. And in reality, because we're in the pandemic, we actually have an opportunity to really stay a little more in tune with what's happening with nature, because our lives are already different. So in that difference, we have an opportunity to be a little more closely cued by what's happening in our natural world, which is us. We are nature, right? So I really encourage you to, when you rise, and to rise early if you can, and to get up and see if you can feel the quiet. See if you can feel what's happening in nature, and let that seep in a way. And this morning I want to read a poem because we're also seeing the migration of the birds. And this again is such a beautiful thing for us to witness. So, if you're in Portland, go out to Sauvie Island, go out to, go out farther afield, or, go to Alpenrose Dairy, look at where the birds migrate, even through there, which is, in Southwest. Go somewhere where there's water, go down by the river, go see what's happening, so that you can be awed by this migration. That's, now we see it. I mean, we might see it, some people notice all the little bitty birds, but now we see the geese. We don't get to see the swans over here on the West Coast so much, but keep your eyes and ears peeled for what's happening. And I participated, I witnessed a memorial for a friend of mine that died October 1st. And it was all virtual, and it was beautifully done, really. And he was a really big birder. he was really into connecting with the birds, and he's lived in Wyoming. So the tundra swans are passing through Wyoming right now. And so it was on the day of his memorial, there were 18 tundra swans that came through. Anyway, I want to share with you a poem. So let's take a comfortable seat. Connect to the earth, to the surface beneath you. Lengthen your spine up towards the sky. And begin to drop into your Ujjayi breathing. Dropping into the Ujjayi. And working with making the breath smooth. So this easeful Ujjayi. Does it feel nurturing to you? Does it help to quiet your mind this morning? And this poem is called Swan. Did you too see it drifting all night on the Black River? Did you see it in the morning rising into the silvery air, an armful of white blossoms, a perfect commotion of silk and linen as it leaned into the bondage of its wings? A snowbank, a bank of lilies biting the air with its black beak. Did you hear it fluting and whistling a shrill, dark music? Like the rain pelting the trees, like a waterfall knifing down the black ledges. And did you see it finally, just under the clouds? A white cross streaming across the sky, its feet like black leaves, its wings like the stretching light of the river. And did you feel it in your heart? How it pertained to everything? And have you too finally figured out what beauty is for? Did you feel it in your heart? How it pertained to everything? Have you too finally figured out what beauty is for? And have you changed your life? Releasing any control on your breath. Bring your hands in front of your heart. This morning, I'll chant the sound of Om. I hope you'll join me and sing Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Taking a deep inhale. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. With your next exhale, bow your head towards your heart. Release your hands. Lift your gaze. And to start our practice this morning, we're going to come up to standing. We're going to take a wide stance. I want you to be able, no, Diego says it's Shavasana, but he's not right. It's not time for Shavasana, Diego. All right, my love. Come here. All right, so grab some blocks, and I wanted to have something to go under your head this morning in your wide-legged forward fold. So for some of you, that might mean an extra block or some pillows, cushions, whatever you can. So that, because if you need your blocks for your wide-legged forward fold, then you should have them. But we're going to come into a wide-legged forward fold, and I want you to be able to put the head on something. So for some of you, that might mean, blocks, a whole little, some shape of towers. For some of you, it might mean just a blanket. And it'll probably change as you're there. The hands are walking back towards the space between your feet. So please give yourself whatever height you need. I know this is a lot to ask for a morning movement. Like, oh my gosh, my hamstrings, Lynn, really? So make the tower tall enough so that your part of the head can find this. You're gonna root down into your footprints. From the inner knees all the way down into the inner heels. So inner knees to heels, inner knees to heels. So you've got the strength happening with the legs. So if you needed to bow forward to, a countertop, that's fine too. And can you go into the space where the back root is? It is from the tailbone to the inner sit bone to the perineum. Can you land your felt sense at the back root? And can you lengthen from the back root of the pelvic floor up to the core of the pelvis? And Nancy Lennon, what about on the right, Nancy? On the right, you might snug in on your right inner sit bone, a little to midline, and just notice what happens when you do that. Okay, then we're gonna walk the hands back out. You can move that prop out of the way, shift your hands up to your hips, and come back up to standing. Let's step the feet together. Inhale, lift both arms. Exhale, hands, Anjali Mudra. We're gonna 2 more of those. Use the length of your inhale to lift the arms, the length of the exhale to bring the hands back into Anjali Mudra. Last one. And then we're going to inhale, lift both arms up again, and exhale to chair pose. In your chair pose, can you take the lower abdominal area, the abdominal organs in front of your sacrum, and draw them back toward your sacrum? Where's the weight in your footprints? Take another deep inhale. And then with your next exhale, bow forward. Inhale, straighten the legs. Exhale, Uttanasana. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana, halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rise all the way up. Exhale, hands back in front of the heart, Anjali Mudra. Release both arms. Let's take a strap. If you have a strap, take the strap, let's open it up. Let's just open a little bit through the front of the chest. So we'll inhale, lift both arms. Exhale, take the hands a bit wider. Bend the elbows. So hands probably a little wider than your elbows. And then come into the top of the breastbone. Lift the manubrium up. And start to take the wrists back. So give yourself as much strap as you need. So you start to take the wrists back some. Pause, breathing. So we're lifting top of the breastbone. Okay. And if you come along your collarbones, take the outer collarbone and roll it up towards the top of the shoulder. Maybe you take the wrist back a bit more. Maybe where you are is good. Maybe you notice some numbness in one arm. Don't worry, if it disappears right when we come out, you're fine. Keep lifting at the top of the breastbone, rolling the outer collarbones. Do you feel your shoulder blades snug up against the rib cage, the bottom of the shoulder blade? And then we're going to inhale, lift the arms up. And exhale, bring them back down. All right. Can we take a strap in the right hand, your right hand, and you're going to bring the strap. We're going Gomukasana. So if you just bring it around. So there's your right arm up. You're going to bring your left hand behind you, and right about the level of the sacrum, you can grab onto the strap. And then start to bring your left elbow towards midline, then walk your way up the strap to wherever. So on the down arm side, now that outer collarbone on your left side, rolls down. On the lifted elbow, that collarbone is lifting up at the out. Lengthen through your right side, all the way up towards your right elbow. And least, you're going to want to be really generous here, right? You want a lot of space with your elbows. And if this aggravates that tendonitis you have, then you could do, something different at the wall or just anything. All of us are going to take one more deep inhale. And then with the exhale, release the bottom arm. And you can bring the top arm down. And let's switch sides. So strap is in your left hand. You bring the strap around. And then come behind you, grab onto it down low. Slide the forearm across your body till the elbow finds midline, and then walk up your strap. Now your vertical arm is probably your left one. And the down arm, that down arm is internally rotated. So we let the outer collarbone roll in on the down arm side. On the lifted side, lengthen all the way through your side ribs. There's a little side bend, so that on your left side, which is probably the lifted arm, you're lengthening all the way up. And then we're going to release the bottom arm and the top arm and let both arms dangle. And then we're going to take the strap one more time. And this time you're going to inhale, lift the strap up. Exhale, let the strap slide through your hands as it goes all the way back behind you. I know you can't see my arms when they're up, but I'm just holding the strap between my thumb and pointer finger so that with the inhale, up go the arms, and the exhale, I'm letting the strap slide through one side, reaching from my shoulders all the way out my hands. And one more time. So I am thinking about reaching all the way through the arm from the shoulder joint. Last one. That's the exhale. So from the shoulder joint, out both arms, all the way toward the fingers. Okay. Then let's put the strap aside. And you might want your blocks, so you could have those in front of you. We're going to take, inhale, lift both arms. Exhale, we're bowing forward to Uttanasana. Uttanasana. Softening through the front hip creases in Uttanasana from the pubic bones. You feel that hip crease come all the way across, and make sure it's going all the way to the front of the greater trochanters, the front of that outer hip bone. So wide and soft through the hip creases. Releasing the head. Let's inhale halfway up. Exhale, fold. One more time, inhale halfway. So you can use your blocks halfway up, lengthening the spine. Exhale now, bend both of your knees. Soften that front hip crease. Inhale, arms forward, chair pose. Inhale, straighten both legs. Exhale, hands, Anjali Mudra. Release your arms. Take a stance. We're going triangle pose. Triangle. So if we go to your right first, so you can have a block at the right outer shin or ankle. Inhale the arms wide. Exhale, so pelvis moves away from the front leg. You can bring back hand on the pelvis. Right hand comes down to a block. So can you find on the front leg the inside of the pubic bone, the inner right sit bone and perineum? Can you find that part of the root? And from there, can you reach up towards the core of the pelvis? So the front left inner pubic bone, front left inner sit bone, perineum. Reach to the core. And then from the core of the pelvis, can you reach to the space of the back front root? So you're going to reach from the core to the inner right sit bone and tailbone perineum. What happens when you do that? And you might reach the left arm up. The ujjayi. All right, and then keep this reach going. As you reach from the back front root to core, come up. And let's take the second side. Inhale the arms wide. Exhale, so the pelvis moves away from the front leg. Left hand comes down, right hand on the hip. And then you're going to find from the core of or from the front root, front left root, which is inner left pubic bone, inner left sit bone, perineum. Reach to that pelvic center. We called it between the pubic bone and the sacrum. And then you might also go from the core of the pelvis. Where is it in you? Where is that space that's midline between your pubic bone and the front of your sacrum? And can you reach on the diagonal to the back front root, to the space between perineum, tailbone, inner sit bone? What happens to when you do that? Do you notice the weight shifting in the front foot? Do you notice the spine turning towards the sky? And if you want, add the arm. I'm still reaching in these two directions. And then with the next inhale, let's rise. Let's make the feet parallel. If you need blocks for a wide-legged forward fold, bring them around. Let's take hands up on the hips. Lift through the top of the breastbone and exhale, bow forward. We're going to bring our hands either to your blocks or the ground, whatever the length of your hamstrings is. And we're having the spine long here. So we might start with the wrists beneath the shoulders. And then let's bring the right hand into the space between your two hands. So if your hands are on blocks, keep them on blocks. Just move your block over there. Right hand at the midline, left hand up on the hip. Inhale, reach all the way down into that hand, rotating, we're twisting towards your left. Lengthening through both sides of the spine. exhaling back to center. We'll switch hands. Your left hand comes into midline, right hand up on the hip. Deep breath in and reaching into the earth. Reaching all the way down as you rotate and turn. I mean, we know when we watch the birds, the really large birds, and we see the herons or the geese, and when they wing beat down, you feel that force. You hear it, you know, if you're close enough, you'll hear it, how powerful their wings are as they reach down. And that is what is happening right now. As you reach from the back of your left shoulder blade, especially if you can reach from the base of the neck, C7, across the whole spine of the scapula, all the way down into the earth with this down arm. And then turn back to center. Let's switch the hands up onto the hips and come all the way up to standing. Step the feet together. Inhale, lift both arms. And exhale your hands back in front of your heart. One more time. Urdhva Hastasana, arms overhead, upward hands. And exhale, hands Anjali Mudra. Let's release the arms, mountain pose. How do we take the lessons of nature? What do they teach us? What's happening as like I was saying at the beginning of class, how we see nature coming into a place of more reflection, we could say, dropping in, transitioning. And then we'll let that go. Okay, come to the top of your mat. We're gonna step, let's take right foot back. We're going towards warrior one, Virabhadrasana 1. So right foot back. All right, so the back root might have a slight turnout, but my pelvis is pointing straight ahead. And just for a moment, let's remember where the back, on the back leg, your right leg, the back root. So let's go perineum. Where is it? Where's the perineum of your pelvic floor? Where's your inner right sit bone? The inner right tailbone. So you try to land your felt sense there. Like the bird comes in, when it lands on the water, that touching down. So even now I want to kind of land my felt sense into this back right root between my inner sit bone, tailbone, perineum. Inhale, take the arms out and up. And then you're bending the front knee and you're reaching from that back root all the way to the core of your pelvis. Back root to core, and from the core of the back leg to the front root. And then we'll inhale the arms out. Exhale, step forward. Take the left leg back. Check are the feet hip distance. When you stepped your left foot back, did it cross the midline or did you step it straight back? Is the pelvis pointing straight ahead? Then can you land your felt sense in the back left root from perineum, inner tailbone, and sit bone? Inhale the arms out and up. Exhale, reaching from that back root to the core of the pelvis as you bend the front knee. And from the core, you could reach into the front root of the back leg. That would be inner pubic bone, sit bone, perineum. Can you do both at the same time? Inhale the arms out. Exhale, step forward. Inhale, lift both arms. Exhale, bow forward. Inhale, halfway. And then for some of you, we're going to downward facing dog. If we have problems with elbows, we're going to take a different pose. Downward facing dog for most of us. In downward facing dog, the back root is broad. The front root, if we were dividing them in half, front and back root is broad, front root, those two areas are narrowing. And you let them narrow in the front root. That doesn't mean that my legs change how they're rotated in downward facing dog. Deep breathing, still staying with the balanced ujjayi. Can downward dog feel like resting? You might, and I don't know, maybe there's a protocol for the eyes, but if not, you could let the head drop slightly to let the back of the neck be longer. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. And then we're going to bring both knees down to, no, let's go forward to plank. Sorry, Lynn gave me a good idea. Plank pose. Plank pose, strong through the inner thighs. Good. We feel the abdominals toning, back of the neck. Yep, that was it, Colleen. Exactly. Rib cage moves up to meet the front of the shoulder blades. Yes. And then we'll bring the knees down and walk back child's pose. And making something for the head to rest upon. Again, it could be the thumbs, it could be a block, it could be a blanket. All right, and then we're gonna walk the hands back, and I'll tell Lise, because I know that weight bearing her arms right now isn't a great idea, that we're gonna head back upright in a moment, Lise. We're gonna take Uttanasana from standing. But so the rest of us are gonna come onto all fours, and we're gonna go back to plank pose. Right leg back, left leg back. Reaching into the ground. So you're reaching into the finger pads, the knuckles. As you press into the earth, also you'll feel the lift of the inner thighs, lifting the rib cage up. So feeling the strength of reaching into the ground. Then we're going to exhale back, downward dog. Inhale deeply. And exhale, step your awkward foot forward. And then the other one, there's Uttanasana. Inhale all the way up. And exhale, hands back down in front of the heart. And then release your arms. All right, let's grab your blocks. Let's bring them forward on your mat or a chair. Chair is fine too. And we're stepping right leg back, right leg back. So back foot has a slight turnout. Let's inhale the arms wide, like wings. Exhale, you're bowing forward. Hands can come down to your blocks. Where's the core of your pelvis? Where's that center that is between pubic bone and sacrum? On the front leg, so you're going to reach from the core to the back root of the front leg. But then you're on the back leg, on the right leg, find the back root, which is perineum, inner right tailbone, and inner right sitting bone. And from there, lengthen towards the core. At the knees, notice on the front leg, is the outer knee joint narrowed? How can you broaden at the outer left knee joint? What happens when you broaden the outer left knee? And you kind of take up the slack at the inner left knee. Okay, and then we come to fingertips. And inhale, come up. And exhale, step forward. And then we'll step left leg back, straight back, so that the feet are still hip distance wide. Let's inhale, reach the arms out. Exhale, bowing forward. We're going from the core of the front leg to the back root. And on the back leg, we're going to go from the back root to the core, the opposite. But I mentioned the outer knees because I know some of you are having knee issues. So on the front leg, so the right outer knee, what is the space like at the outer right knee? Can you broaden the outer right knee joint? Narrow the inner right knee. And then we're going to inhale, come up. And exhale, step forward. Inhale, lift both arms. And exhale, hands back in front of your heart. Inhale, lift both of your arms. Exhale, Uttanasana. Inhale, halfway. And then exhale, let's bring both knees to the ground. Child's pose. Broadening through the back body, if it's okay with the knees. Something for the forehead to touch as a reminder of the support of the earth, that dropping in. Okay, and then walking the hands back. All right, can we take half, so Ardha, half Supta Virasana. So first, some of you already know your setup. Some of us don't. So you, or maybe, I don't know. If I take 2 blocks end to end, that might be great. If I own a bolster, I'll put that probably on top of this. Some of you have the bolster. Probably most of you don't, so I always like to show the setup without. But a lot of you already know your setup. You can go ahead and set yourself up. But if I take a blanket on top of those 2 blocks, I might need another blanket. This is going to depend on the length of the quads, right? Excuse, oh, Diego. Oh no, Mom, don't take that blanket. I'm going to use probably another blanket. Sorry, Diego, to go under my head. Excuse me. All right. So if I'm in front, I'm not going to sit on those. If I need space at the back of the knee, I could roll up a little washcloth, put a spacer there. If my right leg is going to be my down leg, and my left foot is going to find the ground, and there goes my rib cage onto my stack. But I want to make my stack high enough that the right knee is able to reach the ground, that the right knee isn't floating. So bring yourself high enough. And you can take your arms out to the sides. And can you find the core again? Core of the pelvis. Yeah. So that you're going to reach from the core of the pelvis. Let me find this. Okay. To the front right root. And the back root up to the core. So on the front side, if you find the core, can you reach all the way down into that space between the inner right pubic bone, inner right sit bone, and perineum? So when you reach from there, you feel the pelvis lifts. And you could also imagine this length coming from all the way from up higher in along the spine. And you might say to yourself, my gosh, I should spend more time in this pose. If I'm spending time sitting, riding my bicycle, which is also sitting, opening the front of the right hip. Okay, then I'm going to use my arms to press into the ground, lift myself up, and take my other side. So left leg in Virasana, if the knees are okay with that. Otherwise, you could always have that bottom leg straight. So if having the left knee in Virasana, you could take the left leg straight and just add a little lift under the pelvis with a blanket. Or you could take a low lunge with the back knee down. This time would be the left knee on a blanket so that you're opening and stretching the front of the thighs, which the front of the hip joint can be so tight. So when you reach from the core of the pelvis into that space of the front left root. And you can also go from the back left root up to the core. So I could go from my inner right sit bone, the tailbone, to the perineum, like that quadrant, and reach that quadrant up towards the pelvic core. I could take the arms out with the palms up towards the ceiling. And then we can release that. Come out. You could turn towards your stack to take downward dog with something under the forehead, or maybe just puppy pose. If I'm in downward facing dog, even though I want support under my head, it doesn't mean that I'm not still reaching. My arms, remember, the arms are strongly reaching all the way towards the hands. Kind of like we said, the downbeat of the bird in flight. Okay. And then we'll go ahead and bring the knees down. All right. Now, let's see. I want to sit in Ardha Matsyendrasana 1. So I'm going to move my props out of the way and sit on the ground. So I'm going to take left heel towards the right sit bone and the right foot across. And then taking the right hand behind you and either holding the right knee with the left hand, or that if you take the knee in the elbow, you might just grab on to the forearms, both of them. That's another way to do this twist. Weight balanced in the hips. On the down side. So if the left leg is the down leg, can you find that back left root from your perineum to your inner left tailbone and your inner left sitting bone? And can you reach that up towards your pelvic core? And can you go from the pelvic core to the back right root? So from the core to the back right inner sit bone, inner tailbone, perineum as you turn. Okay, great. All right, let's come out of there. We'll take the second side. So I bend my right knee. I could be sitting on a blanket, that's fine. Left leg across. So I notice on one side, it just takes me a little more time to balance my weight in my hips. And then you have the option, you make a choice, you go, do I want left arm behind and just right hand at the outer left knee? That's fine. Or do I want to bring the knee into my inner right elbow and the left hand across to grab on to the right kind of hand or forearm? That's another way. Both are fine. And then you could drop your felt sense into the back right, down leg, to the root, which is from perineum, the inner right sitting bone, the right inner tailbone, and reach it up towards the pelvic core, the space between pubic bone and sacrum. And then from the core, you can reach into the back leg, into the lifted leg, the lifted knee. All right, and then we're going to come back to center. Good, let's take both legs straight for Dandasana. Over at the knees. Kind of integrate that space above and below the knees. Okay, can we take then your let's take one of your blankets and it's folded lengthwise behind you. I like to have the rolled end toward me. A second blanket that's going to go across to go underneath the head. And then I'm going to have my blocks. So I'm going to sit in front of this this stack. Because we're going to do, well, let's do this one first. We've got this stack, we're going to leave it there. And then before we lie back on that, if it's okay to sit in kneeling, you'll sit like this. If this is not comfortable for the knees, you have a couple options. One would be to take, for some people it works to just snug a rolled up blanket or two little washcloths tucked right up behind the knees, because it gives the back of the knees space. Some people like that. Otherwise, you could sit in a chair and not worry about bending the knees. We're going to take Yogi Mudra, pranayama. And then we're going to take another reclined pranayama before we come down to Shavasana. But whatever seat I'm going to take right now, I want to find a height that's going to work for my forehead to rest upon. Whatever height. It could be a block, it could be blankets, it could be, books, could be more than one block, whatever height works. And again, you can do this seated in a chair as well with something high on a table or something. Okay? So then I'm going to reach my hands behind me and I'm going to take one hand and grab the other wrist. So I can show you this to start. I'll inhale in seated. And on the exhale, I'm bowing forward. I'm going to leave the exhale out. Inhale, I rise back up. Exhale, I'm on my way back down again. Holding the exhale out until I feel that urge to inhale and rise back up. All right. So if you have a question, you're welcome to ask me. Otherwise, you can go ahead and begin. And I'd like you to do six rounds of this. Okay? Questions, please feel free. So the exhale is on the way down. The forehead rests. You're holding the exhale out until you feel the urge to inhale, and then you inhale all the way up. And again, you exhale all the way back down. Hold the exhale out until the urge to inhale rises and lifts you all the way up. And you keep going. You're just doing a total of like 6 full breaths. When you get to the bottom of your next exhale, the inhale, you'll go ahead and come up, straighten both legs, and lie back over your blanket. So pelvis is on the ground. And if your knees, you can either have straight legs or take Baddha Konasana legs with blocks supporting the outer legs. So either Baddha Konasana legs or legs straight. And I'm going to ask you to drop the felt sense into the pelvic floor, into the root. And on the inhale, narrowing the back root. Up towards the core And on the exhale, broadening and relaxing the front half. So on the inhale, can you narrow the back root of the floor to the core? And on your exhale, can you relax the front root of the pelvic floor from the sit bones all the way to the pubic bones? Narrowing the back root on the inhale, relaxing the front root from the core, pubic bones to inner sit bones. And then at the bottom of your next exhale, you can release any control on the breath and come to Shavasana. You're welcome to change the position if this isn't comfortable for you. Some of you might be fine staying where you are. Whatever works for you. You're taking Shavasana. Did you too see it? Drifting all night on the Black River? Did you see it in the morning, rising into the silvery air, an armful of white blossoms, a perfect commotion of silk and linen as it leaned into the bondage of its wings, a snowbank, a bank of lilies, biting the air with its black beak? Did you hear it fluting and whistling, a shrill, dark music, like the rain pelting the trees, like a waterfall knifing down the black ledges? And did you see it, finally, just under the clouds, a white cross streaming across the sky, its feet like black leaves, its wings like the stretching light of the river? And did you feel it in your heart, how it pertained to everything? and have you two finally figured out what beauty is for. And have you changed your life? And slowly allow your breath to deepen. And gently beginning to bring movement to your body. Bending the knees and using the support of your arms as you come back to the side and back to sitting, just taking your time transitioning. And joining your hands in front of your heart. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.